So we were also discussing the fact that people think that lawyers don't care. And the reality is that, I can't speak for all lawyers, but I think a lot of times lawyers are taught that emotionally we can't really connect with our clients, which I think is utterly and totally crazy. And here's why. I think that all things that human beings do are driven by emotion. No, the most analytical and logical scientist, engineer, doctor, attorney is still driven by emotion. You can look at the things they do, the shows they watch on television, the choices they make about how they invest money, what they eat, if they work out or not. All of these things are all emotionally based. And we're going to have plenty of videos talking about that at much greater length. But the simple reality is that all human behavior is driven by the desire to avoid pain and to gain pleasure. So we attempt to falsely take emotion out of everything as though it really doesn't exist. And really what's happening is we're pretending, And number one. Number two, emotion is energy. And that drives the depth that we go, how we analyze, and not in a frenetic way, but in a more caring and real way. And the legal education, so the first point I want to make about caring is the legal education doesn't prepare us for this. When we're in law school, I think the legal educational system is so utterly broken because it doesn't teach you how to prepare and succeed as a lawyer, for the most part. Some of the extracurriculars do. If you're involved in moot court, mock trial, some of those programs. I went to Seton Hall University. It has a highly nationally ranked moot court program, which is wonderful, and I learned a ton by actually doing. Repetition is what teaches. When we're in law school, very often, we're learning how to find the law. So the great mistake that I think exists in the legal profession is just, number one, thinking that because people are lawyers, that therefore they're good lawyers, right? Just like everything, there's a best and a worst, and everything in between. Like literally, if you could objectively rank everyone, there could be an objective ranking system of the most caring lawyers, the most aggressive lawyers, the most urgent lawyers, the most talented lawyers, right? From top to bottom. There's 2 million lawyers in America. There's number 1, there's number 2 million in every single conceivable category, as well as combining those categories like a top trial lawyer and the worst trial lawyer that would possibly exist. So the first distinction to understand is that the legal education and the people teaching law school for the most part haven't practiced law, most of them haven't been inside of courtrooms, and they're really smart people. But being smart and winning for your client and negotiating and influencing, and those skill sets are completely different than being analytically smart and figuring out interesting nuances about making legal arguments. Those are two completely different things. How you deliver that to a court, how you write that in papers, all of those things matter. So first point is, we're almost taught, not almost, we are taught not to care. We're told not to care. We're told your clients can't become your friends. And these are all very bizarre things to say, sort of on an inhuman level. Now, that's not to say, of course, that our emotion should overtake our decision making. That's something completely different, which is really the second point. Our decision making has to be intelligent, analytical, but the degree to which we care also impacts our decision making. And folks hear me talk a lot about the Arizona case in 2016, the largest jury verdict of the year in Arizona that we achieved, and I think it's the work of my life, and it's an incredible example of all the things that we believe in, every principle that we could ever possibly talk about. And without emotion, we would have given up on that case in the very beginning. If not for emotion, I don't jump on an airplane and fly out to Arizona and decide to take a case because somebody I cared about asked me to go represent his son-in-law that I worked with for a long time. And I don't take that case without emotion. I certainly don't make decisions about how we were handling billing and getting paid over time if I wasn't emotionally involved. I certainly wouldn't have done some of the things that I did because a lot of lawyers feel, my perception is, they feel a much greater sense of protecting themselves as opposed to protecting their client, which I think, frankly, is an ethical violation. I don't think our obligation is to protect ourselves. I think we need to care more about our clients than ourselves. And so in the case, we had a local counsel and a bunch of different people that we worked with that did a horrendous job because they were afraid to tell the truth. They were afraid to report certain behavior to the authorities. They were afraid, they did it in total lawyer nonsensical way, which I think is I think there's a lot of times that lawyers are committing, the ethics world to me is incredibly interesting. Because I think that it's an ethical violation not to assert your client's interests. And I think it happens all day long. And so I have to worry about these videos and what's on them, and whether or not I make I say the wrong word and I create an advertising violation. Lawyers have to worry about if a penny is off in their trust account, but lawyers can lie in court, and lawyers can protect themselves over their client and ignore evidence and reality and just say, well, it wasn't that clear and I wasn't that sure, and take very conservative positions because they want to make the court happy and they know the judge, or their firm knows the judge, or they don't want to cross the adversary because they're afraid maybe the adversary will cross them in another case. These are conflicts of interest that are very subtle, and quite frankly, here's the interesting part, they're very emotional. And the emotion, though, is directed towards the attorney protecting his or her own self-interest as opposed to the client. So I look at things maybe in a little bit of a different way. I look at it and say, you want your attorney to be caring. You want your attorney to be emotional, legitimately, and have the courage to assert your position in truth and not back off from it. So when people say to me and ask me about, hey, do you think that lawyers care? I say, yeah, I think lawyers care, and all humans care about a lot of things, but the real question is, does the lawyer care more about their own self-interest, relationship with the adversary, relationship with the court, their own inappropriate comfort zone? Are they ready to call a liar? Or they'll never call somebody a liar, no matter how many times they lie, because they think it's unprofessional. Well, that's completely crazy to me. How is it unprofessional if somebody's committing perjury to not say they're committing perjury and they're a liar? And they would say, well, that's emotionally charged language. Really? I'm sorry. Isn't a liar somebody that tells an untruth? Isn't a lie an untruth? Why is that emotional? So the question is, does your lawyer care enough to be aggressive enough to use the right language, to assert your claims, to forget about their own self-interest? I had in that Arizona case, they tried to put me in jail. They tried to report me criminally because we're reporting their clients criminally, so they tried to come back and their clients were legitimately committing insurance fraud. And they were trying to say that we had inappropriately obtained documents and somehow a violation of HIPAA in the law or something completely nonsensical and ridiculous, right? So a lot of lawyers will not go down that road because they feel like even if they're telling the truth, if they're asserting a position, they're going to expose themselves to heat from the other side. And so the question you have to ask yourself about caring is your lawyer going to follow a conservative, self-protective set of rules of engagement, or is your lawyer going to assert your rights in full? And when lies are told, whether it's by the lawyer, whether it's by their clients, whether the court is wrong, are they going to tell the truth on your behalf, or are they going to be afraid to tell the truth on your behalf because they're protecting themselves emotionally? And that emotion, ladies and gentlemen, is called fear. It's called fear, which is an emotion. So emotion is all over the legal profession. The question is, who's getting the emotion? The lawyer in protecting himself or herself, or the interest of the client in protecting himself or herself? And I'll tell you one more thing that's critical. Creating emotional synergy between lawyer and client is an imperative. Because all human beings work better with synergy. So if you do have a good lawyer and they're working hard and they're all invested and they're all in, that's a blessing. It's not easy to find. Tell them, compliment them, acknowledge them, right? People behave consistently with getting positive feedback, positive energy. I'm not saying to tell them they're doing a great job and they're not, but if they're doing the things that are making you feel protected and taken care of, and you have a guardian out there for you, tell them, right? And if that's something that you're seeking and you can't find, you have a case pending or you're thinking, call us and find out if that's us. I'm pretty confident it is, but let us prove it to you. I'm Sean Callagy, and this is Callagy Law.